Hey guys, I just wanted to give my review of Arrow Season 4, Episode 13, Sins of the Father. So basically, Nyssa gives Oliver the ultimatum, as mentioned in last week's episode, kill Malcolm Merlyn so she can take control of the League of Assassins as she was meant to, and then she'll give Thea the Lotus to cure her of the bloodlust and also prevent her from dying. Diggle and Laurel tell him that they should just agree with Nyssa's go through. That they should. Why shouldn't they kill Malcolm? Is because what he still keeps going with the whole same damn reason that he is Thea's father, and he keeps figuring Thea's going to be Malcolm's like redeeming, moral compass or redeeming factor, which it's like then he brings up the fact that it's like my father got mixed up with Malcolm Merlyn, and it's like he did horrible things for the city, and I like still wish I could get the time with him back. But it's like it just feels like it's like Oliver's kind of thinking about what he would want and not what Thea would want, because it doesn't seem like Thea. I mean, Malcolm is a narcissist. Like he's proven that time and time and again. Like he's tried to kill over 500 people. He used his own daughter as a murder weapon to kill Sarah as part of some convoluted plan that ultimately led to him becoming a member of the League of Assassins. And it's like it just feels like those are just so like there's such like an empty excuse. Like, does Thea want the relationship? How does Thea feel about it? He feel like he's being presumptuous about how Thea would feel about it, because his father his father at least wanted to atone for his actions and wanted his actions to be atoned through his son. Malcolm doesn't seem like he cares, and of course Nyssa goes to. Laura goes to confront Nyssa about it, and says that she calls Nyssa, and she calls Laurel out of not being a good enough friend and leaving her to rot in the cell, and resurrecting Sarah against her wishes and leaving her to rot in the cell at Malcolm's behest. And she tells him, and at least I'm glad that Nyssa called Laurel out on that, and then Laurel was able to tell Nyssa that Sarah was fine, she was whole again, and that she still wanted, and that this wasn't who she, and she's tried to reason with her this isn't who she was, that why is she bargaining with Thea's life, and she says that, that Malcolm Merlyn has to, the streets are going to run red with the blood of our enemies. And apparently, of course, like mentioned in the last episode, the League is split into two factions, one on Nyssa's side and one on Malcolm's side. And Oliver tries to go to talk to Malcolm about the Lotus and Nyssa's deal. And Malcolm tries to be smug about it, saying that, they don't even know the things the Lotus is real. They don't even know if, and Malcolm, of all people, saying, like, Nyssa's distrustworthy, you shouldn't trust her. But Malcolm's been, like, one of the most duplicitous people on the entire show. So he's, like, not one to talk. And meanwhile, there seems to be it seems to be kind of this ongoing theme, like, people can't change no matter how much you want them to. And for some reason, Oliver thought Thea would be enough to change. Thea would be enough to change Malcolm or keep him in check or redeem him. And it also ties into the theme about how Felicity meets her dad for dinner. He basically reveals to him that he knows that she's Overwatch and that they're both hackers, and that he basically wants to tell them that they're both vigilantes, they're both on the same side, and he basically wants to come back into her life and atone and make up for all the lost times, and that he was on the run from law enforcement, and that she didn't want her daughter, Felicity and her mom to live their lives as fugitives as well, just by association. So basically, Oliver's trying to find a third option between not trying to avoid as much death as possible, not having to have Malcolm die or Nyssa die, and um, so they just figures like they need. So both Oliver and Felicity decide they need a way to test whether or not Nyssa's gonna hold up her end of the bargain, and Felicity decides to test whether her dad is genuine, especially when Felicity tells her mom that her dad's back, and she says, and her mom says, "Don't trust your dad." Every time I've been in your situation plenty of times, and it's ended up with me being broke, unemployed, and a 7-year-old who needed new shoes. So she takes, so Felicity gives her dad the tour of Curtis's lab and shows him off the T-spheres. And of course, she finds out that her dad really hasn't changed, that she used some kind of device to like copy and steal like data and I guess like presumably like trade secrets of all Curtis's work from Palmer Tech. And they were able to give apparently, and Nyssa Forks gives them like a sample of the Lotus potion to give to Thea, and does heal her reopening wound from when Ra's al Ghul stabbed her last year. And it turns out that although they come to a standoff where they realize the cure works. Nyssa and Malcolm meet, but instead of just willingly handing it over, Malcolm just decides to try to kill Nyssa and her faction, and there's this huge all-out battle royale between the League of Assassins, and but like Malcolm points out, Nyssa's faction is outmanned, so they're forced to retreat. So Nyssa and her followers are forced to retreat, and Malcolm and his faction were going to go after Nyssa, but Oliver, Laurel, and Diggle stand in his pathway, so he takes off. And of course, both factions are fighting in the streets, and there are civilian casualties, and basically Diggle, Laurel, and Oliver are forced to subdue Nyssa and put her in a cage. And Laurel tries to get through to Nyssa, saying, "This is not who you are. Why do you care about your father's birthright? You know what kind of man he was. You can be free of him." And of course, Malcolm is at Thea's bedside, and he's trying to actually justify that he can't surrender his position as the head of the League, because he's justifying himself as he's a savior, and how the League is enforces change in the world, silently manipulating events. And he asked Oliver, if he had to choose between his son William, which Malcolm found out about, sacrificing his son or an entire city to Damien Dark's forces, would he? He says one life isn't worth, and he says one life isn't worth thousands. But again, it holds they're they have very their League of Assassins are very amoral, so, and not very they're only self-righteous, and they Team Arrow, everybody knows their hearts are in the right place, and they're not judge, jury, and executioner, so the League. So finally, Nyssa and Malcolm are about to have another duel, and but Oliver decides, since in the eyes of the League, Oliver is Nyssa's husband, he will fight in her stead, and at least do a somewhat entertaining sword fight. It's a little bit anticlimactic, but it ultimately ends with Oliver telling Malcolm to yield. Malcolm says, "You better get it over with, just kill me here right now." But instead, Oliver cuts off Malcolm's hand, takes the ring back from Malcolm, as he says, he's correcting the mistake that he made by giving him the ring in the first place, and hands it over to Nyssa. And Nyssa summons both Malcolm, Laurel, and Oliver, saying that, you know, she learned from both of them, like, how she's been corrupted by how selfish she's been, and nobody, including herself, should be a prisoner of the previous Ra's al Ghul. So she destroys the ring, and she says she's disbanded the League of Assassins. And Malcolm seems like furious, and just proved that he really just cared about power. And he says that he tells Malcolm, and Malcolm tells Oliver, like, I loved you like a son, more than like a son, and the only reason I'm not killing you is because I will be too merciful, and nothing hurts more than the fact that now I actually owe you one. And Malcolm actually walks off. He actually gets in contact with Damien Darhk and sells out and tells Damien Darhk about Oliver's son William in Central City if he really wants to strike at Oliver. And of course, they give Thea the Lotus. She's cured of her Lazarus Pit side effects. Felicity decides to turn her dad into the authorities. And as a quick note, the flashbacks kind of talked about about Oliver killing that Russian woman's brother, and how he said that he had no other way. It's like there's always another way, and which I like about how these episodes are starting to have parallels to, like, in season 1, like how Oliver made, like, the wrong choice in the flashbacks, and how he's learning from his mistakes in the present day. And so, I guess and so he's trying to relate to the pain of loss that the Russian woman went through for the people that he's lost since since the Queen's Gambit went down. And then the Russian woman tells them if he ever wants to make a difference and right his father's wrongs, it can't be as a shattered, broken man. And Ryder gets his hand on, like, that arrowhead that Oliver got from Shadow and that hallucination, and Oliver says that they're gonna help the Russian woman and her friends get off the island. So overall, I thought it was a really good episode. It was a really great game changer. I liked the whole storyline, how it was a nice break from Hive, and apparently, you know, Oliver and I don't know when. I guess apparently there's going to be an episode where I guess Oliver and Felicity said they wanted to get married as soon as possible, have a small ceremony. And the previews for next week, I don't know if they're going to follow up with Damien Darhk trying to find Oliver's son in Central City or not, but we'll see. But all in all, this is like a solid game-changing episode. I mean, what do you guys think of it? If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. Is there anything you... Leave any comments or thoughts that I didn't mention in the comments down below, and I'll be putting out my Supergirl, my Agent Carter review, either late tonight or early tomorrow, either tonight or tomorrow, and also as well as Legends of Tomorrow. So take care, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.